Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We're in the OG studio where we cover all things art. In this video, we're going to be going over how to create a blood effect, specifically on a wound. We're still in the works on working on these 3D printed Ninja Turtles. Within their sculpt, they have these gashes on them, so I want to apply a blood effect. This isn't going to be some gory video where there's blood splatter everywhere. We just want a simple effect to make it look like they were cut open and maybe a little bit of blood is dripping out. So now, there's roughly 4 stages when creating that type of effect for making it look like a wound. Basically a flesh wound. So you're going to have the deep muscle, which is going to be a dark red color, surrounded by the outer tissue, which is going to be more of a pinkish color. Then you have the skin color, so whatever the person's skin color is. In this case, we're working on Ninja Turtle, so their skin color is green, so it might get a little tricky. And then you have the actual blood. We're going to do a little bit of a blood drip effect. So the actual blood, once it hits the oxygen, the air, it gets brighter. So the blood itself is going to be more of a brighter color. So we're basically going from a dark maroon color, which is the muscle, to a pinkish color, which is the tissue, whatever the skin color may be, and then to a bright red, which is the blood coming out of the actual wound. All right, so with that said, let's get started and see how it looks.
Okay, so here's what we're going to be working on today. It's Raphael from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. If we take a close look at him, you're going to see some wound cuts sculpted into the design, and that's what we're going to be painting today. So we got one on the top of his shoulder, one on the forearm, one on the thigh, one on his calf, one on the top of his head, one towards the left shoulder, either another one on the forearm, one towards the tricep, one on the upper thigh, and another one towards his calf. So this is the red that we're going to be using. It's a true red. It's just a regular hobby paint. And we're going to be toning it down and making it a little bit more darker with some black paint. It's just standard black paint, matte finish. So we're just going to stir up our paint. The reason we're not just using the bright red out of the bottle is because blood in real life isn't a very bright color to begin with. It's more of on the darker side. So we're using 2 colors of red, a darker red and a brighter red, but we're adding black to both of them because I don't want it to be too bright of a red. So same thing, we're going to stir up the paint. This is our darker red color. It's looking a little bit more brown on video, but in person is a little bit closer to maroon. And the same went for the bright red color. It's not as brown in person. So here's the 2 reds we're working with. We have a darker red and then a brighter red. We're also going to be working with some thinner. I'm just going to pour some thinner into a separate cup. And that's going to be to water down the paint in some areas. As for brushes, we're going to use a number 4 Nick Pro round tip brush, which is basically like a very thin, long bristle brush to get into those thin areas of the cuts. Okay, so we're going to take our dark red color and just fill in the wound. Just get it in there good. It doesn't have to be super perfect and clean because, you know, it's blood and it's supposed to look messy. And same thing, we'll go into the forearm and just fill in the wound color with the darker red color. Okay, that went on a little bit thicker than I wanted it to, so we're going to have to clean that up just a little bit. So I'm going to take a wet Q-tip and just wipe off some of that. And the reason I'm able to do this is I applied some clear coat before moving on to this step of doing the blood. So that's going to be an important tip when you're working on your projects. When you finish a certain step and you're happy with the results, spray it with some clear coat. This way when you move on to the next step, and if you do mess up, you can basically do what I'm doing right now and rub off your mistakes without affecting the paint underneath it, because it's protected by the clear coat right now. Okay, so that's looking a lot better. Okay, so now thinning down the paint, you want it to be very watery, because what we're going to do is we're going to create some drip marks to where it looks like very old blood. So you can just go around the wound and spread it around. And what this is going to do is make it look like it's been there for a while. It's very dry, kind of like a blood stain. You'll still be able to see the green skin through it. And then later on, we're going to take the brighter red and go back over it in certain areas more closer to the cut. This way it looks more like fresh blood. So basically what we're doing with the dark red right now is just trying to make it look like it's very old and it's been there for a while and it looks like old blood stains. So I'm just going to draw some thin lines coming down the leg. And we're basically going to make it, I think, look like it's dripping onto the bandage. And then we could do some blood stains on the bandage. Just another way to make it look like the blood's been there for a while. Okay, so now we're going to go back in a little bit thicker, just towards where the cut is. You don't want to go too far down because I still want that transparent look that it's dripping down his leg. Because like I said, later on as that dries, you'll still see the green skin through it. So same thing, we're just going to go back to each cut, this time using the paint a little bit thicker and applying it more closely towards the cut. And not going fully down to where we watered it down the first time. And you can go back and forth with this until you like the way it looks. You can go back and forth between the thick paint, the thin paint, until you get the effect that you like. Okay, so I'm going to go back in with the thinner. And just spread it around a little bit and add a little bit more of a drip effect. And go around the wound itself. This way it just looks like very old dried blood stains on his arm. Okay, we'll let that dry for a minute. And same thing, I'm just adding more of that watered down drip effect to certain areas. And around the cut. This way when it dries, it'll look like dried blood stains. Okay, so now we're going to go in with the brighter red. And the idea behind this is you only want to apply the bright red right where the cut is. This way it looks like it's fresh blood still pouring out of the cut. So we're going to apply this over the darker red in certain areas, but not completely over the dark red. You don't want to cover up the work you've done already. But the darker red will give it a little bit of a drop shadow and make the bright red pop a little bit. So we're kind of just going to blend it into the darker red. But just make sure you don't go fully all the way down the drip marks, because we still want that dark drip mark to be there. This way when it dries up, like I said, you'll have that transparent look and you'll still see the green skin through it. So same thing, we're just going to work our way around to each wound again and apply that brighter red color. We're going very thick with it right now, and we're just going to keep it very close to the wound. Okay, so now we're going to take the bright red and water it down, and same thing, just apply it a little bit around the cut, just to give it a little bit of a two-toned effect next to the darker red. This way we'll have a mixture of colors between dried blood and fresh blood. Okay, we're going to go back in with our dark brown. And we're going to go back into the wound area and just give it another coat. This way it looks darker because when we went in with that water effect, the water did get in there a little bit, and we just want to darken it up again. And we're just going back and forth between the thick paint and the watered down paint. Extending some of the drip marks right now, just to make it look like it's dripping down a little bit more. And we're going to go into the bandages. And same thing, we're going to first go in with it very watered down to make it look like it's been there for a while and it's very dry. And then we'll go back in with the paint a little bit thicker to make it look like it's a little bit more fresh looking. Same thing with the bandage on his forearm. First we'll go in with it watered down, and then we'll go back in a little bit thicker. This way it has some contrast and it gives it a little bit of a two-toned effect again. So we're just going back and forth between the thin down paint and the thicker paint. Okay, so looking at his head, I think we're going to paint just the cut itself. I don't think I'm going to do any blood drips on his head. Just basically because I don't want him to look like he's dripping blood everywhere all throughout his body. So we'll do some watered down drip effects to where it's not too noticeable, but you'll be able to see it if you look up close. So same thing, we're going to thin down the paint and just give it a few thin drip marks. And then once that dries, you'll be able to see the green skin through that. And just go around the cut and make it look a little bit more messy. Okay, so looking at the left shoulder, same thing again. We're going to go in with the darker red color first. We're going to put it in very thick. And then we'll thin down that dark red color and do those drip marks that'll dry, transparent. So I have my thinner. If you look at the cup, the way it's dripping down the cup, that's the way you want it to look like it's dripping down his body. When we go around the cut and do those blood stains, you want it to be very, very watery looking. And then we'll go back in with the dark red color, but this time thicker. And just touch up the inside of that cut where we got the water inside. And same thing, we're going to take now the bright red color, we're going to put it on thick, and we're going to keep it as close as possible to where the cut is. You don't want to bring it too far down the drip line. This way we get that contrast between old and new blood. And you can see where it's starting to dry. It's already starting to dry a little bit more clearer, and that's the look that we were trying to go for. Okay, so looking him over, looking at his thigh, I think I want to fix those blood drip lines. They look a little bit too thick to me, so I'm going to fix those off camera. But his forearm and his shoulder is looking good so far. You have that contrast between old dried blood and the fresh new blood. Okay, and here's the final look. As mentioned, I did go back in off camera and I reworked some areas because I could see better off camera. I made some of those blood drips a little bit thinner. And also went back in and added that watered down effect in some areas to make it look like he just had a little bit more blood stains all over the place. And you can really see that contrast between the two red colors. You have that dark red and the bright red, and then we have the contrast between the watered down paint and the thicker paint, and that's the effect that we're trying to go for.
All right, so I think that turned out really good. I'm really happy with the results. Stay tuned to the end of the video. I'm going to be showing you all 4 turtles and the final effect, so definitely check that out. You don't want to miss it. So now with this project, it was definitely a little tricky working on Ninja Turtles. Obviously with the green skin and what I had to work with just the sculpt being just a gash, there really wasn't like tissue sculpted into the design. So the idea with the paint on this was to make it look like they've been fighting for a very long time. You have this wound that's not new. It wasn't made to look like the wound just happened and blood's pouring out. It was made to look like they were cut open and they continued to battle for a long period of time. So that's why I went in with the darker red, almost like a watercolor effect, to make it look like it's transparent, like the blood's been dried up on them for a long time, but they continue to still fight. And then we have the fresh blood that's still somewhat pouring out. Within this concept, it's a darker take on the Ninja Turtles. It's not your kid's cartoon. It's made to look like they've been beaten up, that they're dead. I believe it's based off of the last Ronin story, to where 3 of the brothers die and only 1 is living. So with the concept on these 4 turtles is it's made to represent that one of them is still alive and that the other 3 have died. Stay tuned to future videos because I will be doing the full reveal very soon. These are pretty much almost done, so I'm super excited to show them off and show you how they turned out. I think they turned out amazing. If you guys have any suggestions or tips and tricks on how to do blood effects, please leave a comment below. I would love to read it. If you have any questions, leave a comment. I try to get to as many as possible. Would love to read what you guys have to say. Please subscribe, hit that thumbs up button. It really helps promote the video. As always, I will see you next time on the next project. Take care.